Hey everyone, it's me, Gretchen Rubin, coming to you live from my apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan in New York City. And I am going to be joined in a moment by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. I'm so excited to be talking to him today. While we're waiting for him to join, tell us where you are in the world. It's so fun to know. And do you have questions for Doctor? This is your chance. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee is well known as being the doctor in the house of the BBC One TV show. He's written several terrific books like Feel Better in 5. This is a book that I have, The Stress Solution, except my version is backwards. And also the book, The 4-Pillar Plan. And if you love podcasts, I think I forgot to say I'm host of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. He has a terrific podcast called Feel Better, Live More, which is how I first got to know his work and got to be such a huge admirer of him. So now I'm going to see if I can get him to join. This is always the tricky part. Let's see. There we go. I think this is it. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, the suspense is building. Hey, there you are.
Hey, Gretchen, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Just checking. Can everyone see me okay? Are we good?
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if everything's good.
Yeah.
Oh, someone says, cannot wait. Okay, good. While I was waiting for you to join, I was asking people, this is your chance to ask a doctor questions. So that's great. And I want to say, just for people who aren't familiar with you, one of the things I love about your approach is that, you work with a lot of patients. Like, you're very in touch with like real people, real issues. It's not just sort of platitudes about how to be happier and healthier and have a richer life. Like, you really are on the ground. So let me kick off the questions by asking you, what are you seeing are the big challenges for people right now? And if you can give people just like a few quick pieces of advice, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, Gretchen, you're right. Everything that informs what I talk about comes from seeing patients. And I've been seeing patients for almost 20 years now. And I've quickly learned that actually the medical school training, the research papers, okay, they're fine. They can help inform you.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like seeing people and actually seeing what works.
Yeah.
Like, there's no good reading something and giving that to a patient. If it doesn't work, I'm always thinking about, well, why is it not working?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? So
that's what I love about everything you talk about. It's so practical and realistic about how do we achieve these aims that are so important.
Yeah, and to answer your question, what do I think some of the big problems at the moment are for people? I mean, there's quite a list. I think stress, anxiety, mental well-being. How do you look after yourself? How do you stay well at the moment? I think is one of those big challenges. I think relationships can be under huge strain at the moment because, well, many reasons, but one of the reasons is that people deal with anxiety, they deal with fear in very different ways. And your partner or your friends or your children may be dealing with it in a very different way from you. And therefore, if you expect them to be seeing the world through your eyes, well, unfortunately, that can often lead to a lot of problems.
Well, I know that my sister and I on our podcast, we talked about picking COVID-19 mantras, and my mantra was put down the clipboard, because just like you say, my way of dealing with anxiety is to become very, very scheduled and to like have a to-do list, and everything happens at a certain time, and we're going to exercise and go outside, and this is when, and it's like my family was not finding that helpful. It was reassuring to me, but like you say, it could have become a real source of conflict if I hadn't put down that clipboard.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, for all the problems, and of course we've said some of the things that people are struggling with,
yes,
I actually think a lot of the solutions are not as hard as people think.
Oh, good. That's good news.
I really do. I think one of the problems at the moment also, I will say, is many of us are now taking our health and well-being more seriously than we ever have them before. We're thinking, wow, okay, the world has changed pretty quickly.
Give us a thumbs up if you agree with that. If you're really thinking harder about your health and your well-being than you ever have before. Yeah, people are starting to give a thumbs up.
Yeah, loads of people watching from the UK, which is awesome, as well as America, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good to see you all, guys. What I was going to say, Gretchen, is that look, you can go on Instagram, you can read a book, you can listen to my show or your show in terms of podcast, and you can get information, and that's great. But that information, unless you do something with it, just stays as a bit of inspiration. And the sort of philosophy I really like for people, particularly in lockdown, is the framework that I outlined in Feel Better in 5, which is 5 minutes a day on your mind, 5 minutes a day on your body, and 5 minutes a day on your heart. It's really a simple framework. So would you mind if I sort of expand on that? Because I think it's really useful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please do.
So
Oh, wait,
5 minutes on your mind.
Before you jump in case you're just joining, I want people to know who they're listening to. If you're just joining, I'm Gretchen Rubin of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast, and I'm talking to Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who is a doctor who has written many books, been on TV, has a podcast, Feel Better, Live More, who is now describing sort of like a very practical way that we can work on our well-being in this time.
Yeah, and the reason I like it, going mind, body, heart, I'll explain what they are, is because I think if we just focus on one area of health, we miss out the big picture. So we just focus, let's say, on our physical health, but we miss out mental health and emotional health. I think we can become a little bit skewed, and it's not that difficult to actually look at them all once you have a simple framework. So when I talk about mind, I say do something each day for your mental health and to clear your minds. And that can be journaling, that could be breathing, that could be meditating, that could be simply going in nature for 5 minutes, which we know lowers levels of the stress hormone cortisol within minutes. Okay, none of these things are complicated. None of them cost any money. They're very, very accessible, but pick one of them. You don't have to do them all, right? You go on Instagram, you see someone's doing live yoga, someone's doing meditation, someone's doing mindfulness, and it could be a bit overwhelming. Oh, I'm not doing that, but my friends are doing it.
Yeah.
Pick one thing and commit to doing 5 minutes a day, right? That's the first thing I say. Then I say do 5 minutes on your body. That's your physical health. So move your body for at least 5 minutes a day. Now, of course, if you want to go for longer, great, but make the commitment that you'll do 5 minutes because it seems easy and achievable. And if on some days you do more, great. But on some days, if you just do 5, that's fine as well. And that could be anything. That could be a strength workout. That could be a 5-minute yoga flow. It could be getting your skipping rope out. Yeah. It could even be, Gretchen, dancing, right? Dancing. Like if people are feeling stressed and anxious, I challenge them, put an upbeat song on and try and dance to it and stay miserable. And it's impossible, right? It will change your mood and how you feel. And again, you don't have to do them all. Pick one of them, okay? And then, okay, so I've done 5 minutes on my mind, 5 minutes on my body. And then the final piece, Gretchen, which I think is the most important piece of all, particularly in lockdown, is 5 minutes on your heart. And when I say your heart, what I mean is not heart like I was taught at medical school, which is, the heart pumps blood around the body. No, I mean the other meaning of heart that human beings, that artists, that poets and songwriters have been writing about for thousands of years, and that's about human connection. We know that human connection is one of the most important things for health. Some studies have suggested that when you feel isolated and not connected, that's as harmful for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day, right? That's remarkable. And I think human connection was a real problem 2 months ago. It's become even more of a problem in lockdown. So again, I would say 5 minutes a day, connect with another human being, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text message, a Zoom call. When COVID-19 and lockdown started, I had this little practice that every evening I go into my contact list on my phone and send old contacts, old friends, either a really nice text message or a really nice voice message, like a really kind thing to do. And, pick one of them, but it makes a really big difference. I won't keep going on, Gretchen, because I know you probably got questions, but yeah, I really find that so many people have found that useful in lockdown, and it takes the pressure off. And kids can do it as well.
Right. Well, so if you were curious to sort of follow up on this kind of brief framework that Dr. Rangan Chatterjee has given, this is his book, Feel Better in 5. And I'm seeing that people are saying like, oh, I love your book is life-changing. Could you briefly explain the stress solution and the 4-pillar plan, those books, so that if people kind of want to dive, each one has kind of a different flavor. So maybe explain what the other two are in case people want to go deeper into that.
Yeah,
that
sure,
aspect
Gretchen.
of
I
your
mean,
work.
very happy to. Look, I like you, Gretchen. I write books to help people, right?
Yeah.
They're all about how do you, but for me, it's about giving people simple tools and making health as simple as possible, because I've got this deep belief that we've overcomplicated health. It's actually not that difficult, but we've made it super difficult. And so I always want to break it down. So my very first book in the UK, it was called The 4-Pillar Plan. In the United States, it was the same book, but it's called How to Make Disease Disappear. And it's basically my overall framework of health, the 4 most important components, in my view, that lead to a healthier and happier life: food and movement, but also equally important, sleep and relaxation. So it's a really beautiful symmetrical framework of how people can not look for perfection in each area, but just do a few things in each area to provide that balance. Then my second book, The Stress Solution, which is called the same everywhere in America and in the UK. It's basically, yes, it's about stress, but really, in some ways, it's a negative title. It's actually about how do you become happier and calmer. It really helps people understand what stress is, where it lives in their life, and then what you can actually do about it. Really simple things that you can do, like morning routines or a breathing menu of 6 different breathing exercises. And that audiobook actually has proved really popular during lockdown. People are really accessing that to try and get those tips.
You can imagine. Oh, someone says stress solution. I like the checklists in there. Oh, so that's
AMG Travels. Thank you for that. I'm really glad to hear that. And then,
so if you're just joining, I'm Gretchen Rubin of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. I'm talking to Dr. Rangan Chatterjee of the Feel Better, Live More podcast, and then books that we've just been talking about. If you have a question for Dr. Chatterjee, please put it in the comments. And while people are asking their question, all these people are saying they like your books. What is, like, if you could magically wave a wand and get everybody to do something, like everybody to get 7 hours of sleep, or everybody to go for a 20-minute walk, or everybody to pick up the phone, like what's like the thing that you're just dying to convince people to do?
Yeah, man, you asked me to choose one thing, Gretchen. That's tricky. So
okay,
apart from one,
three. You're a genie who can have 3.
Okay, so you know what I'm going to say, and this is really where I'm at these days, is I think that one of the most important things anybody can do each day is have 5 minutes where they have some time to themselves, where they're not consuming, they're not looking at social media, they're not reading a blog or even listening to a podcast. Just 5 minutes to be alone with their own thoughts, because I really feel that a lot of the time we don't really know how we feel. We're just reacting. We're stressed out. We're trying to distract from that stress by jumping on Instagram or reading another blog or going on Twitter. And again, I do that as well. I am not criticizing. I understand it. But 5 minutes or 10 minutes to yourself, just maybe sit in the garden, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in your garden, if you're lucky enough, or your backyard, and just be. Because you will start to get in touch with your body and your emotions in a way that you simply, it's a lot harder to do when you're actually always consuming all day. And for me, Gretchen, if I didn't do that first thing in the morning, I struggle to find my 5 minutes in the day, right? Which is ridiculous on one level, because of course I've got 5 minutes later. So I find, for me, I do it in the morning as soon as I wake up. So that's the first thing I'd say. 5 minutes to yourself. And again, if you want to do one of those breathing practices, that's a great time to do it. Something where you focus on yourself. You said you're going to allow me 3. So I said, move your body for at least 5 minutes a day, get your heart pumping. It doesn't matter how, you don't need to get changed. I work out every morning while my coffee is brewing in my pajamas, right? It's that simple. I make it easy. Like, my coffee brews for 4 minutes. In those 4 minutes, in my pajamas, I do a workout. Well, there's a question there from Wave Mechanic. Hi, Wave. If I wasn't a doctor, what would I be? Can I jump in and answer that?
Sure.
I think I'd be a musician if I wasn't a doctor. So I love music. I love performing, and yeah, I don't think I've ever said that publicly before. But yeah, I think I'd want to be a musician if I wasn't a doctor.
Now, are you using this time to bring more music into your life?
Gretchen, you know, I am actually. I used to play in bands and guitar and play and perform. And then the last few years, work has been so, I'm going to use the word busy, right, like everyone does. And I've realized as much as I enjoy my work, I realized that I've not spent enough time over the last few years playing my guitar and singing. So I found in lockdown, because I'm traveling less, because I'm commuting to London less, sometimes in the evening, the kids are in bed and maybe my wife's reading a book somewhere, I'll just get out my guitar and I've started to write again a little bit, which is like in terms of songs, which is, it's making me feel different, because it's something that I think I've just not made enough time for the last few years. And I've really getting the bug again, and it feels fantastic.
Just as an aside, I think this is just one thing that I've noticed, maybe you've noticed this too, is that when people talk about kind of losing touch with something that they really loved in the past, music seems to be something that when you're younger, there's so much opportunity. Like you take lessons, and then when you're in school, you're like, there's these bands. And then when you're a young adult, there's a lot of playing. And it seems like adult life doesn't really make those opportunities. It seems like a thing that a lot of people could reach back and grab again, because it sort of drifted away, but it's such a source of joy to the people who really love music. So that's a great example of someone doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, look, I'm not perfect. Like, like everyone, I'm trying my best in the modern world to actually look after myself and say, well, I think I'm pretty proactive with my health. But, in lockdown, I'm finding things that I think, oh, wow, well, I could change that about my life potentially. A few people have mentioned this video I released on my Instagram page on Sunday. I've never released a video like this before, Gretchen. It's gone viral, and I can't quite believe how many people have watched it. It's a 3-minute video. Half of it was shot with my 9-year-old boy in lockdown. And it was really about what it's about one aspect of what I've learned in lockdown. I wasn't trying to minimize any of the heartache that many people are feeling, economic, health, all kinds of things. But it was just a real 3-minute positivity video. And you know what? I did it with my son. So we'd go out early in the morning and he'd shoot me in the middle of the deserted town center. And again, following on from music, it was something creative that I was doing with my son that normally I'd probably be too busy to do. So it was a really beautiful experience. And he got a credit on the video, which he was super excited about. But yeah, so if people want to watch it, you can jump on my page afterwards and have a look. It's a pretty fun 3-minute video to watch, I think.
Excellent. If you're just joining, I'm Gretchen Rubin of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. This is Dr. Rangan Chatterjee of the Feel Better, Live More podcast, and so much more. Here's an interesting question. Someone asked, any suggestions of how we can connect with family and friends when we're all zoomed out after a full day of remote working? So you've got Zoom fatigue. How do you connect? What's a different way to connect effectively?
Yeah, it's a great point. Well, look, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is a good old school phone call, right? Like I did that before with someone today. We thought, should we do the same? I'm like, no, you know what? We've done a million Zoom meetings already today. Let's just not do it Zoom or FaceTime. Let's just do it on the phone. And it was amazing. Like, it really does work. I know it's a small thing. So that's one thing. You can send text messages. You can send voice messages. You don't have to communicate back and forth. You can just send a really nice voice message. I'm doing that a lot more in lockdown, actually. I'm finding I don't want to be on my screen that much texting and emailing. So often I'll just send a quick voice message on WhatsApp. So I think simple things like that can be incredibly useful. And in terms of human connection, I know a few people have said, well, what happens if you live by yourself? How can you connect? Of course, you can do it electronically. But, don't forget, like, let's say you go to the store or the supermarket. I don't know what the rules are at the moment where you live, Gretchen. But let's say we're here and we're socially distancing in the store. You can still say hi to the people you're passing by, to the store attendants. You can say hi, hey, how's it going? How's your shift today? Little what we call micro connections. They make a huge difference to how you feel. The postman drops something. Maybe you can't go to the door, but through the window say, hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. You know what? When we are kind, when we connect with other people like that, not only does it help them, we know it helps us even more. We have lower cortisol levels. We have our stress levels going down. We are wired for connection. And so, the other thing I've been doing with my kids over lockdown is that they've been writing old school letters
Yes,
to their grandparents.
a couple
Like,
people have been mentioning letters. Yeah.
Feels old fashioned now, right? But they're so excited, the kids, to write these letters. And you have to think about what you're writing because it's not that immediate back and forth. And so I think there's so many ways we can connect. And Gretchen, can I just say, I think there's something a lot of people don't understand about connection is that connection isn't actually about being physically with someone. I mean, that's one component of connection. But I think Professor John Capiosho, who's probably done the most research on loneliness until I think he...
Is that how you pronounce his name? Because I have his book and I'm like, how do you say his name? How do you say his name?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
okay. He's a brilliant writer about loneliness and social connection. Yeah.
But he says that his research, from my understanding, is that actually human connection is about a shared experience. It's not about physically being there. And the example is you could be in Times Square, surrounded by thousands of people, but you can still feel lonely. So it's not about physically being with people. It's about that shared connection. And therefore, I think in this pandemic, there's a real opportunity because we're all experiencing this. Sure, we're experiencing it in different ways. I recognize that. But if you make a phone call each day and say, hey, look, I really struggled today. I found it really hard. How are you finding it? And you open up with that vulnerability over a shared experience. I think, that is what connection is. And going back to what I said at the start, for the 5-minute mind, 5-minute body, 5-minute heart, I would say, make sure you connect on some level each day with another human being, even whether it's text message. Gretchen, for people in relationships, one thing I do, and I try my best, and we're not perfect, but it is very easy at the moment for my wife and I to be like passing ships. It's very easy for us to try and homeschool the kids, get our work done, if I've got patients to see. And actually in the evening, then you can easily retreat to Netflix or your phone. And we try our best to do what I call a tea ritual. This is also in Feel Better in 5, but it's a tea ritual. So once the kids are in bed, we make a pot of mint tea, we put our devices away, and for 5 minutes we sit there and, we make a commitment that we're going to catch up with each other. Now, of course, it doesn't often, sometimes it's 10 or 15 minutes, but the commitment is for 5 minutes a day, we've got to do that. And that structure and routine has brought much more intimacy and closeness into our relationship. So people who are listening, if they're struggling with their relationship a little bit at the moment, I'd say, look, have you given each other 5 or 10 minutes of dedicated connection time where your laptop's shut and your phone isn't in sight? Because these things distract us. So loads of tips there for people. Now, I've got loads more, Gretchen, but I don't want to keep...
Wait, well, I have 2 quick questions I want to... Somebody said, are you coming to Scotland soon? Which, not soon, but were you coming to Scotland? And somebody wants to know what the picture is behind your head. So what is the picture?
Oh, picture.
Behind you?
Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Tell us the story of that.
Okay, so that picture, and this is so funny because I've been on BBC News quite a lot recently talking about COVID-19 and health and well-being, and sometimes on Twitter there's more questions about the picture than actually what I said, which probably means what I said wasn't that impactful. But
okay.
I'll explain what the picture is. It's a picture of a man and a woman skiing at a particular mountain in Chamonix, Mont Blanc in France. So I've spent a lot of time there. It's one of my favorite places to go. After I got married, we spent 2 months there, having fun in the mountains. And that is I'm in my study, and that's a picture basically of Grand Montet, which is one of the ski places in Chamonix in France.
Oh, good. Okay. That's a good conversation starter. And then, so, I mean, I know that you travel all the time and now you're not traveling, but somebody is hoping that you're coming to Scotland when you can.
Well, yeah, I love Scotland. For people who don't know, I was at university at Edinburgh in Scotland, and I lived there for 2 years after. So 8 years I lived in Edinburgh. So I love going back. I've been there every year on the book tour. And so I'm sure that will happen at some point once we're allowed to travel again. And I really hope to come to America soon if that's going to be possible because, well, I love coming, and Feel Better in 5, which is available to buy there, the UK version. It officially comes out in the States in September. Oh. So I would love touch wood, I'd love to be able to do some promo for it because I've seen the impact it's had here in the UK. So I'd love to help get it out there in America to help people as well.
Well, and someone says, do you have any new books that are coming?
Oh, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say. I may do, yes, I may do. Is as much as I can say at the moment. But
okay,
I enjoy writing, and I tell you what, Gretchen, I don't know how you find this because you've written books as well, but I find books just an incredible way to order like thinking in my head. So if I think I've got something sorted, and then I start writing, I realize, oh, you thought you had that, but you don't. You're really confused in this area because writing, you have to get it clear in your head. I don't know, has that been your experience when writing as well?
Well, I think that's what led me to writing, is because I can't really have a thought unless I write it down, and it's by writing through something that I really understand something. So actually, and I feel like if you can't write it, you can't really think it. That
Exactly.
is the test of clarity of thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. So for me, yes, I write books to help people, but I've realized, having written 3 books in 3 years, that I love it. I love the process. I feel I upskill as I write because I have to, things that maybe weren't completely clear, I have to clarify. And then I feel I become a better communicator afterwards because I've had to order my thoughts. So yeah, I love writing, and I'm sure over the next few years there'll be many more books. I've got so many ideas, particularly from lockdown, so many thoughts whirling in my head.
Yeah. Okay, so one last question. So I'm Gretchen Rubin of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. This is Dr. Rangan Chatterjee of the Feel Better, Live More podcast, and then the books that we're talking about. So the last thing before you go back to everything you've got going on, what do you think we should learn from this time? It's an experiment we didn't want to run, but we've run it.
Yeah. Gretchen, look, I think it's a brilliant question. And I think the first thing I should say there is that although we're experiencing the same pandemic, we're all experiencing it in very, very different ways.
True.
Okay, depending on your own economic situation, depending on whether you live in the country or in an urban setting, depending on whether you've had a loved one who's got sick recently. Your experience is going to be very different, whether you're homeschooling your children whilst trying to work full time or not. So these things are going to definitely impact the way you experience it. But I will say, for many of us, we've had the opportunity to live a different kind of life, a life that frankly we never would have subtly nudged our way to. We've jolted our lives and we've experienced a different way of living. And I would really encourage people to journal each day at the moment, write down your learnings, even if it's just 1 line or 2 lines, because when life does return back to normal, whatever normal means, it will be very easy to forget how you felt. And I think for all of us, we've got a unique opportunity to write down what is really important to us. Gretchen, what have I learned? And I think many people will resonate with this. I have spent the last 7 weeks, every single day, I pretty much had 3 meals a day with my wife and my children. On every single day, we've either been out for a long walk or a long bike ride together. Frankly, I don't think I've ever done that with that degree of consistency. And I love it. I literally love seeing my children this much. And I think, well, I love my job. And I thought I had a good work-life balance because, yes, I was away a lot. But when I was at home, I'd switch off. I'd not answer my emails. And I'd just be focused on my family. But I've realized, well, I quite like certain aspects of this life. So what aspects of this kind of living can I bring in when lockdown is lifted? And for me, it is, I think I've been getting better at learning to say no over the last few years, but I think I need to get even better. I think I need to upskill even more. For me, I want more time with my family because we've only got one life, right? So what's the point of rushing around, chasing around, thinking, oh, I'm going to do this in the future. I'm going to do this in the future. I'm thinking, well, life is here right now. This is life. What is the future? What is the past? This is it. And I remember last week I was in my garden at lunchtime, a simple lunch with my wife, with my kids. And I got it. I got it, Gretchen. I just thought, this is happiness right here. happiness is an inside job. It always has been. It's not about escaping, going off on the beach holiday, or going out there. I could not be happier than right here, right now in this moment with my family. And for me, that's going to be one of my big take homes from this whole experience.
Well, that's a very profound insight. And again, as you say, it's not something that you would have wished for, but it's something that you got, and it's very precious. It's something that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to experience. So before you go, just tell people if they want to follow up, do they go to your site, and that's kind of a good hub for everything, or where should people go to follow up with your?
Yeah, so if people like what they heard and they want to hear more about this stuff, I mean, I think the best thing is probably my website, drchatterjee.com. Or, one of the best ways is probably my weekly podcast, Feel Better, Live More, which comes out every Wednesday. And, delighted with how many people listen each week. It's a lot of variety, a lot of different things. Or, of course, on social media, like here on Instagram. I can be on DMs sometimes. If you've got questions, do find them across. Sometimes I don't get a chance to answer them all, but sometimes I do as well. So feel free to jump on. But Gretchen, I'm a big fan of your work as well. And so thank you for inviting me on this Instagram Live. And at some point we are podcasting together for sure.
One of these, we'll do it. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This is fascinating. And I know it was really helpful from reading somebody says life-changing podcast, Dr. Chatterjee. So thank you so much. Okay, everyone, I'll be back on Friday with Elizabeth. And until then, keep your hands clean and our minds clear. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you. Bye-bye.